Recap time. It's another year for Queer View Mirror, so that means another 9, 10 episodes. The turf issue has been so, I don't know, blown out of proportion with all the celebrities piling on it and this side and that side, but I think it's died down. What do you think?
Well, I think the fight still needs to happen. Um, and I think it's really only dialed back for us because we shut all the commenting off on our posts.
Actually, it started with LeaderCast in 2014, and that was something that divided the community in Nanaimo. It was sponsored by Chick-fil-A, which is a well-known anti-gay company in the U.S. primarily. But when I saw that there was going to be a conference put on by Chick-fil-A in the convention center here in Nanaimo, that sort of grabbed me because I had been a gay activist for many years and was certainly familiar with Chick-fil-A. One of the city council people that I knew put forward a motion to cancel the LeaderCast. And this had the result of inflaming the Christian community and primarily the evangelical Christian community. They became really up in arms about it and were accusing council of being anti-Christian and that Christians couldn't use city facilities. It got really blown out of proportion. In fact, Ezra Levant, who I think a lot of people are familiar with Ezra Levant, came to Nanaimo and did his show from Nanaimo and confronted one of the council members, the one that had introduced the motion. It got really nasty. So I was then asked probably a couple of months later, I think it was December of 2014, if I would meet with an evangelical minister. And my reaction was, why? I have nothing to say to them. But this person was persistent, and I actually finally agreed to meet James. I told him I didn't think we should meet in public because I would probably get really angry and I didn't want to make a scene. So we actually met.
Where's the fun in that?
I know, who would want to do that? So we actually met in his office at his church, which is the neighborhood church in the north end of Nanaimo. So we met and we started talking, and I told him, I kind of unloaded and just told him exactly how I was feeling about what had happened. And he listened. He gave me some information about his own background and his family. And as a result, I was pleasantly surprised. He wasn't what I pictured or what I thought an evangelical minister would be like. He wasn't trying to convert me or do any of that stuff. So we just started meeting. We met, I think, another couple of times, and then I invited some queer folks to come join us, and then he invited some other ministers to come, and so we all started meeting, and we all started getting to know each other better. And I think that was really the key to good communication. That was
prior to that, my stand was to be what I would consider to be a really open-minded person who is willing to talk to anybody and is really a nice person. And I didn't give it very specific thought. It was an issue that was arm's length.
And so in a sense, you were neutral.
Well, I was. I didn't. Part of the backstory too is a very good friend of mine who was my editor at the time in Winnipeg. Her daughter came out, and she and I were talking, and I thought I was being really open-minded and nice about it, and I hurt her feelings very badly.
Oh.
And I didn't know why. I knew I did. When my nephew moved in, all of a sudden I got it, because I was treating this as a topic rather than a person.
Oh, I see.
And when it's a topic, you can say all kinds of things and throw things out there because it's a topic. You can't hurt a topic,
Mm-hmm.
but you can hurt people, and
Mm-hmm.
you do. And so that's where a transformation of thinking took place in me that is still ongoing, frankly. But the journey with ET is a very special part of that. And now I get to sit down with gay and queer people, and they're telling me their stories firsthand. And I go, oh my goodness, this is the case? That should not be the case. The church is supposed to be a sanctuary, and that means a safe place. And when a sanctuary isn't a safe place, that's a violation of its core identity.
In your mind, is there a difference between being an activist and an advocate, or is that the same thing to you?
I think if you're an activist, that you're really aware of the issues that affect the queer community and you want to do something about it, and you're willing to do what you have to do. You know, whether it's marching or writing letters or, you know, I got involved with this leader cast thing to try to stop it, and it was successful.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, activism implies action, doing something. Um, Advocate, I think, is more you advocate, you know, you're supportive of the queer community.
Hi, I'm Don. I am your wonderful Alberni Valley video specialist. What is a video specialist, you might ask? Well, he's somebody who is creative and knows how to use available technology. And with that combination, your imagination is the only limit. Here we are in our green screen studio where we can do so many things. All you have to do is imagine it and we will do it for you. We can create cinematic video ads for your business. We can live stream your event anywhere, anytime, in real time. And we have this studio where we have creative technology at our fingertips. Give us a call today and we'll show you what we can do. And then we were privileged to go into an interview with James Chamberlain's David and Goliath story, which we captioned as the $1 million lawsuit. Very interesting interview, which I think enlightened and sort of like encouraged some of the people in our community when it comes to the issue of education and awareness.
And it's because of James that we have Soji Education in BC, largely due to his efforts. So thank you for that.
Anyway, as Scott said, this is our first interview live on a set here in the wonderful Alberni Valley in the unceded territories of the Hupacheset and the Tshap peoples. We are so happy to have with us today Mr. James Chamberlain, who's going to be sharing with us his journey, his story, and his wonderful organization. But it will come in later part. So, James, thank you and welcome to the show. Coming all the way from Nanaimo.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Teaching has been your
Yeah.
sort of like your main course.
Yeah, yeah. It was my main course because I wanted school to be better for queer kids than it had been for me. That was my driving force. That's why I was so involved in LGBTQ activism in schools. And the teacher union had a magazine that they put out, and when in 1992, I wrote an article about being a substitute teacher and being out and being gay and what that was like. And I didn't publish my name. It was the only article at that time that they had ever published that didn't have someone's name attached to it. And that was the first story of an out gay teacher that they had ever published. And I didn't attach my name to it because I was trying to get a job.
What was the progression then? You went through 3 levels of courts.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, at the first level of court was the BC Supreme Court, and we won there. And then at the BC Court of Appeal, that's one judge. Then at the BC Court of Appeal, there's 3 judges, and we lost there, and they ruled in favor of the school board. And then our lawyer said, if we don't try to appeal this to the Supreme Court of Canada, it will set a precedent that school boards can ban books about LGBTQ issues all across the country. So we didn't know if the Supreme Court would even hear the case, right? So Joe Arve, who was a Victoria lawyer, he was our lawyer, he read the books in the Supreme Court of Canada, which is a highly unusual way of litigating. And I got other kindergarten teachers in other school districts to read the books, and then they wrote affidavits about the impact on the kids and how much the kids enjoyed the books. The Surrey School Board wrote all these affidavits about how these books would harm children, cause psychological damage, confuse them about gender. They said these issues should only be discussed at age 16 or higher, if at all, in schools. And all of the professional people that we got, all the teachers and educational professionals who wrote affidavits for our side of the court case were all from British Columbia. Theirs were all from religious schools in the prairies, and no educators from British Columbia at all. So when the Supreme Court of Canada looked at it, they could see this big divide, right, of grounded, curriculum-based British Columbia information, and then
Rhetoric.
what the religious right was basically saying. So at the Supreme Court of Canada level, they ruled 7-2 in our favor, and the Supreme Court of Canada said, just because a parent has issues with something that's being taught doesn't mean that it shouldn't be taught. That's how kids learn, is by learning about something different from themselves. And the little quote the media picked up on was, I don't really like the word tolerance, but they said tolerance is always age appropriate. And kindergarten kids can learn about this topic and should. It was in the curriculum, but nobody was actually actively teaching it and trying to push the envelope. And so that's basically what I started to do.
Somehow, through a series of events, you became the face of a movement. What was that part like? Was it, invasive? Did you find it?
It was awkward because I actually don't like being in the spotlight.
And yet here you are.
And we thank you.
I'm used to it now, but I didn't like being in the spotlight. And the thing I always had to keep in the back of my head was, you are a professional 24/7, so you are always watched. Everything you do and say, you are always watched, and no matter what they quote unquote do to you, you can't lash back at them. So I received death threats, and I had to have security walk me from school board meetings to my car. I had to look under the car to see if there was a bomb. Like, those were the things in the early years of my teaching, and I was warned of that by my union, by my teachers' union, and they were very supportive. But I knew that my security was at risk to some degree in the early years. But I also had to be super professional. No matter what craziness happened to me, I could never get mad. I could never blow it, because then they would think that I was crazy, right? I was a crazy teacher, right? So I always had to be very, very careful about what I did and said, because in some ways I was holding our community right? I was holding our community's reputation.
Yeah, you were sort of like
Moving
thrust
forward.
into the forefront of everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
representing an entire community,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which is like very awkward and uncomfortable and not the way it should be, because I'm a white gay man of privilege and I don't represent the whole queer community, the whole spectrum of the queer community. But at that time, in 1997, there were very few positive representations of anybody in our community.
And then we also had the wonderful Dr. Aaron DeVore, who is the chair in transgender studies that is housed in the University of Victoria.
And Aaron's been on the faculty there a number of years, and this is basically his baby. And we also talked about the Moving Trans History Forward conference that's happening in March in Victoria at UVic. There's a lot of exciting things happening down there right now. So why don't you tell us about those?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Don. Happy to be joining you today, and thank you for your interest in what we do. So the easiest way to introduce what we're doing here is that I have a position at the University of Victoria called the Chair in Transgender Studies. And you can see behind me and around me posters of all the many things that we do. And this chair has been in existence since January 1st, 2016. It's the only position of this kind anywhere in the world. And we did have a partner or a peer for a little while in Buenos Aires, but that doesn't seem to be continuing on. So it was the first when it started, and continues to be the only one. So what is a chair in transgender studies? It is a research and community engagement position. And we have a number of large activities that we undertake, and then there are some smaller activities as well. So the big ones, let me start with those. So I have this position. There's a small staff that works with me. So when I say we, I'm talking about the office of the chair, because I can't do all of this by myself. There's lots of other people that participate. Some are paid staff, and there are volunteers and many supporters that come out to help us in many different ways. So the chair has, to say, many different activities, and one of the biggest ones and the most well-known one is the Transgender Archives at the University of Victoria. So I founded this chair. I also founded the Transgender Archives prior to the founding of the chair.
You know, holding space for so many stories and so many people. Aaron, did you want to comment on that or talk about that a little bit?
You know, one of the things that is a challenge for us is our location. And so here we are on an island off the end of the continent, and we have this extensive collection in the archives, and we have the conferences that we organize, and we do these scholarship programs and the fellowships programs, and the scholarships are for UVic students, and the fellowships are to allow people to come here. So we recognize that it's not always so easy to get here. But nonetheless, despite those challenges, as you could see from the material that went by in those videos, perhaps quickly, that we very much have a global reach. And we have a global reach both through our media outreach. I hadn't mentioned yet that we have extensive social media. And so we're active on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and we're just starting to become active on LinkedIn. And we have a YouTube channel, and we record a lot of what we do, not quite everything, but almost everything we do. We have YouTube videos. And so part of what we are dedicated to is making it possible for people to come here, and also making it possible for people who don't come here to have access to what we do. And so increasingly people are comfortable with using Zoom to communicate, and we do a lot of online events and increasingly hybrid events. But people also need to come here. If they're going to work in the archives, if they're going to study with me, they need to be here in person. Because we are digitizing content from the archives, but when you think about how much is in there, We can't possibly digitize all of that. We're never going to digitize all of that. We digitize the things that we think are most in demand. And I mentioned the word of mouth online digital exhibit. We'll be creating more digital exhibits to contextualize and give meaning to the work we do. So the material in the archives is rare and one of a kind, and it cannot circulate. So we do put it up as much as we can. But then we have all these speakers. And so one of the things I want to emphasize is that we have international visitors who come as visiting scholars. So some of them are graduate students who come and work for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, and I assist them with their work. Some of them are faculty members who are on sabbatical and come here again, who work for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Some of them are community members who are working on art projects or developing a local history of their region, and they want to see what do we have in our collections, because remember, they're from 23 countries, and so it's not just local stuff by any. And so we have things from Poland, we have things from Sweden, we have things from South America, we have things from China, from all over the world. And so we're doing our best to be accessible. Everything in that we do is either free or entrance by donation, or we have a subsidy program to help people to access it. And you may have also noticed, as things went by again kind of quickly, we do lots of arts and cultural events as well. So that's part of community work.
Breaking news. Business owners who use video ads have shown growth of more than 50% over their competition. A well-produced video ad is just the thing that your business needs to take it to the next level. At Rainbow Wave Productions, we have the right tools and resources to create, execute, and deliver the video ad that's right for your business. Click the link below to book a free consultation today.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and representation. And we needed to have some of our trans friends on the show this season, I
definitely.
think.
I think this has been a year for the transgender community to be in focus, be talked about, and be sort of like acknowledged in a sort of like a higher and deeper state, right? And we at QVM are happy to do our part, as always.
If you have a great idea for a show or you think we should feature you, please reach out to us. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, and you can email us through our website too at queerviewmirror.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We're looking forward to another year of QVM, where we are going to be coming at ya.